It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers about the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Sunday night, 27th of April. You know, I know we did one 2 weeks ago, but that really wasn't a sit down. It was remembering our friend, my co-host, my brother, Kevin Castle. Last time we really talked about wrestling on a Sunday night has been 3 weeks. And believe it or not, that episode was supposed to be Wrestlemania predictions. Kevin and I decided to postpone it for an extra week, figuring we'll be 1 week closer to WrestleMania. And then less than 24 hours later, he was gone. You know, it just goes to show you, and anybody that's been tuning into my shows for even the last couple of years, you have heard me repeatedly say that tomorrow is never guaranteed. That's why I don't take things too seriously. That's why I don't get extremely butthurt at a god-awful AEW Dynamite or the excuses that WWE is making for fumbling the biggest WrestleMania of all time. I don't lose sleep over it. I don't get my balls in a bunch. I don't get my panties all discombobulated. We talk about it. We do it with a clear mindset. We express our opinions. And if anybody wants to agree with them, fine. If anybody wants to disagree with them, fine. But make no mistake about it, whether it's me or a Solo Monster or a Bischoff or Vince Russo or Dutch Mantel or JD from New York or Joe Cronin or Gorilla Position, we're not changing the way WWE operates. The only thing we can do is voice opinions. And I tell you, it's been kind of tough the last couple of weeks trying to get into the mindset of wrestling. No, I don't wear panties. Sorry. Tribal Queen. It's, you know, before we get into anything, anybody that has tuned into the last couple of weeks, I talked about the similarities with my grandmother passing away and everything with Kev. You know, when my grandmother passed in 1991, and by the way, I double-checked the date. I had the balls to go look. Yesterday was the anniversary of my grandmother's passing, so it did not happen the same day as Kevin. But if anybody remembers the stories I've always said, my grandmother always wanted to go to Atlantic City. And when she died, I actually went to Atlantic City that night. And I know for anybody that didn't listen to those shows, it sounds almost crazy and insane to do. But the thing is that I had to come home with a poker chip to put in a coffin to tell her we went to Atlantic City. And my friend happened to be going. Go figure, right? So the one thing about Kev, and this is bittersweet, but the one thing about Kev is that we started talking around the year 2000. We started doing shows in the beginning, occasionally in 2002, 2003, and we started really going forward 2004, and then, you know, the rest is history. But we never met in person. We never hung out, never went to a wrestling event together, nothing. You all know now the reasons behind that, but yeah, I had that same feeling that I did in 1991. Like, I had to see him. I had to see him before he was gone, laid to rest, sprinkled, however you want to call it. For those that don't know, he was cremated. It was very, very difficult for the family living in all different areas. They don't live right over here. to start figuring out, funeral, cemetery, a plot, this, that, and this. He was cremated, and the funeral wake was Friday. And I went straight from work, got to see everybody in Kev's family, got to meet all his brothers, got to meet his mother, who's beautiful, beautiful woman. I got to meet some of his relatives. Phil Rea, Turnbuckle Throwbacks, was there. I don't know who else went. I stood for about an hour and a half. And his urn was, in the front. Couple of pictures I had never seen before. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. There was a lot of flowers. I actually was going to send a floral arrangement, but I've never gone to a wake before that involved a cremation. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if the urn would even be there, but it was just surreal. I sat there and I thought about, when we first were talking about TNA forming, WCW going out of business, the Minority Report, XPW, just everything, WrestleManias, Cross, like people we became friends with over the years, people that supported even 20 years ago what we were doing. Just everything was going through my head. And I'm literally sitting there and I'm saying to myself, wow, it's all over. But it's not. It's not. Because Kev will live on forever. We have 20 plus years of shows that, thank God, you ever see those shows, Hoarders? You ever see that TV show, Hoarders, where people hoard everything? I am a little bit of a hoarder. If I zoomed around this room right now, you would be like, holy shit, get a fucking maid. Or better yet, get off your fat ass and clean a little bit. I got shit on my look. I still got the Goldberg gum from 5 years ago just sitting right in front of me, just waiting to be opened from 1998. But I will tell you, I am so goddamn thankful that I hoarded everything that we recorded, everything that we did. Audio recordings going back, even before the Diamondbacks beat the Yankees in the 2001 World Series. I kept everything. So, little by little, that, what's been offline will be back online. And his voice will live on forever. People that were not around, when we first started really, making a difference, you'll understand why. You'll get to enjoy it for the first time. For those that just want to reminisce a little bit, it just sucks going forward that I will not have that conversation with him. I would have loved more than anything, to talk about what transpired at WrestleMania 41, even what I have coined it as the board of deflectors. Not the board of directors, the board of deflectors. I rarely ever print notes for the shows. I had to print this one. And this was Triple H going on that podcast, The Flagrant, that Andrew Schultz hosts. And I tell you, the more I read about Triple H when he's in an element outside of pro wrestling, when he's at these media events in New York City, when he does a podcast like this, you really are reminded how much Vince McMahon has penetrated that brain of his. I read some of these quotes, you would swear to God it was Vince McMahon saying it. Not only that, there's something very, very, I don't want to say dangerous, because WWE is in they're not in any disarray. They're not in any jeopardy of, hemorrhaging anytime soon. As wrestling fans, pure wrestling fans, I'm not saying pure wrestling fans as in vintage Dusty. I'm talking wrestling fans that do enjoy AEW also and enjoy all different. I'm talking about wrestling fans that are watching WWE for wrestling. Not to see Abu Bape sitting at ringside as a Netflix series showing up. Or Michael Cole, with all due respect. I have defended Michael Cole. I have been a Michael Cole fan. I've been a coal miner way before. The only time I ever disliked Michael Cole was the WrestleMania storyline with Jerry Lawler. You know, when he had his, you remember the whole plexiglass bullshit. I never was against Michael Cole. But I'm watching something in my very eyes, and I see it. And, listen, I'm not the biggest show out there, and we used to be, but I'm not. And I'm not the biggest name out there. But one thing I think I can honestly say, if you check out what Kevin and I have done for over 20 years, I think we were the smartest. You know why we were the smartest? Because we didn't need connections in wrestling to be right. We didn't need someone to tell us, no, what you're saying is right. We always just looked at it with common sense. We always just looked at it with clear eyes. I'm never going to be one of those, I'm only watching something because I have to cover it. How could you watch something that you dislike and then cover it? Because then you're going into it with a dislike, and it's very, very hard to be open-minded about it. And it's a great example of that? Mercedes Moné versus Athena. They tore that shit up 2 weeks ago. They tore that shit up. You see all the podcasts out there that were going, like almost having brain aneurysms talking about it. You know what my reaction was when I saw that match? Sasha Banks main event of WrestleMania, pretty much. Shouldn't they already be doing this level? Like, why are we so surprised? Why was that match so unfucking believable? It's because people go into it looking at it this full, and then they get something halfway decent and they think everything's epic, amazing, unbelievable. The AEW problem has been solved. And then what happens a week later? They get the lowest rating of the year. What are you going to say? 800,000 people started watching Max? A billionaire child, adult child. See, people were getting upset when I said that I truly believe that Tony Khan has some form of autism. I don't know. I don't know anybody that's been shielded their whole life behind a billionaire father. But I just see his antics and the way he acts around people, and I see CM Punk yell in his face, and he has the balls to go on network television and say he feared for his life. I don't care if you've been shielded with security guards your entire life. That is beyond childish behavior. That is something else. But I do know people with autism, and I kind of feel like I'm disrespecting people who do battle autism. And I'm like, this guy is a billionaire. Whatever he wants, he gets. And his father sits there, and all the NFL owners. By the way, this week in history is the anniversary of him calling WWE the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling. What fucking retard goes on the NFL Network and the NFL Draft on behalf of the Jacksonville Jaguars and calls a wrestling company, not an individual person, but a wrestling company, the equivalent of someone who sexually assaulted women after women after women and women in the Hollywood world on a casting couch that probably should be castrated? When do you turn around and say, oh, well, you got, it's Tony. No, this is I prefer to call him now the 40-year-old billionaire virgin, the 40-year-old virgin. He's the 40-year-old virgin. He's someone that went to sleep, watched cartoons, ate cereal all day long. And his father, for some reason, because he's daddy's little boy, shields him. And when you read between the lines and you look at the NFL owners and you look at the Pat McAfee show, and we'll get to Pat, Board of Deflectors. And you look at people outside of wrestling, and they're calling a 40-something-year-old man, oh, that's Shad's kid. Shad's kid. How is that normal? Oh, we have all the respect in the world for Shad. What does that tell you? They feel bad for Shad. There's something wrong with his son. And Shad, because he has unwavering love for his son, I'm going to give him whatever he wants. I'm going to keep him happy. The funny thing is, we don't know Tony Khan prior to AEW. Tony Khan could have been this complete whack job, unhinged, person that, this is his father's way of saying, look, I'm going to give you happiness. I'm going to give you everything you want. I'm going to even sacrifice my credibility for whatever you want because you're my son and I love you. That man has never hit rock bottom. There's an old saying, sometimes you gotta, fall down, you hit rock bottom in order to get up. Tony Khan has never experienced that. You know when Tony Khan is going to experience that? And yes, this is kind of a little bit of vintage DTKC. This is dedicated to Kev. Knowing Tony Khan wakes up when mommy is no longer there, when daddy is no longer there. That's when Tony Khan is going to hit rock bottom. And it's going to be really fucking interesting to see how he deals with it. People say to me all the time, oh, AEW will be out of business in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Tony Khan will get burnt out. Tony Khan will get fed up with this time. You know when I think AEW becomes an issue? When Tony Khan has nobody to run to. When he has nobody to catch his fall. When he has to start dealing with the real world, that's where it's going to get really fucking interesting. And we're going to see some people in wrestling that are going to coddle him and take him for millions upon tens of millions. You ever see the catfishing? And trust me, we'll get to border deflectors. I'm setting this up for a reason. You ever see these catfishing? That you ever see these episodes where a Russian woman or an Indian woman, and I say those two countries because they're the ones that do it more than anything else, they will get in touch with a lonely, divorced, widowed, 70-year-old man who lives in Texas and starts communicating with them through the computer. I'm stuck in Ukraine. I'm stuck in Russia. I want to come to see you in the United States, but I have no money. I have no way of getting to you. Please, honey, I love you. Send me $10,000 so I can fly to the United States. Here's $10,000. And then what happens? I was on my way to the airport and I got mugged and all the money is gone. And now I'm being threatened with arrest. This and that. I need another $10,000. We've seen all those scams. And that's what some of these wrestlers are going to do to Tony Khan when he is lonely and needs to buy security. And I'm not just talking about Atlas insecurity. Been holding back with this fear of political bullshit, politically incorrect shit a little bit too long. And I tell you, after what I saw in the main event for WrestleMania 41, and now I see Cody Rhodes doesn't even have a rematch immediately. And how do we get Gunther off TV so he doesn't have a rematch right away? Oh, we'll suspend Gunther for beating up an announcer who honestly deserved it. Michael Cole, I'm saying in storyline, I still love Michael Cole. But what I'm seeing in front of my eyes right now is pro wrestling really getting fucked up. Really getting fucked up. See, it's almost like right now what's happened in wrestling is like when you're first smoking for the first 5 years. You puff, you smoke, not doing permanent damage to your body, but you keep fucking doing it and we'll see what happens. Eat cake every day, eat fucking tortellini Alfredo every day, eat fucking fried McDonald's every day, have Dunkin' Donuts every day. Maybe, you'll gain some weight, but it'll taste really fucking good. And for a couple of years, hey, I'm a little bloated, but it's not making permanent damage. You keep doing that, you keep doing that, you keep doing that, and you see what happens. Honestly, I think one of the reasons why John Cena is retiring after all of these years is because of the fact that pro wrestling doesn't own the company anymore. And getting back to, and Tony Khan, what I just said, this was not an opportunity to bash Tony Khan. I'm talking about as a whole, what I'm seeing in wrestling right now. All right. You have an alternative, AEW, that is more about appeasing a 40-year-old billionaire virgin who I think has legitimate behavioral issues that no one wants to talk about. And it's about pleasing him more than anything else. And we have to deal with that. And that's fine. All right. But the company that everybody gravitates to is starting to become a problem. And you're starting to learn that Triple H understands since the 90s, this is a business. Social media, podcasts, what does he do? He goes on Flagrant, and what does he say? Oh, social media is just a fucking tiny little part of the entire audience. Oh, really? Really? That's what Vince used to say 15, 20 years ago when websites and message boards started to blog a little bit. Blog Talk Radio, and you just brush it off like, that's not a representation. Look at what's going on in person. But the thing is that if you take away all of the people online that do voice out these complaints, what are you left with? What are you left with? You're left with busted open. You're left with busted open. Make no mistake about it. Tommy Dreamer would love to be back in the WWE in that position. Bully Ray, already there. It's a business. I get it. I'm not besmirching them. But if you don't think that they didn't conform to WWE because now they get the interviews, WWE opens up the doors, anybody could go there for an interview. You look under the table and they have people hired and busted open that are rubbing the feet of whoever they're interviewing. You get Dave LaGreca, ultimate goofball. I don't have anything personal against him. I personally think when the cameras start rolling, he takes off those pink glasses and he fucking just laughs up a storm. But his rant about how everything went down at WrestleMania 41, that's the same reason why Brian Alvarez goes against Dave Meltzer. Because for a couple of years, while everybody else was noticing big faults in AEW, but it wasn't a moneymaker in the podcasting world yet, you had them agreeing and having mostly good discussions, this and that. And once Dave went off the rails and started really, really exposing that WWE cut off his supply. And I said this the first month that TKO on WWE. TKO had a big meeting and told Triple H and that company to have a meeting with all the wrestlers and all the personnel. Stop leaking our business. We don't want our business leaking out. Whenever you hear online, oh, so-and-so's contract is coming up later this year. You know where that comes from? Do a simple Google search 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and you will find, oh, look at this. Karrion Kross signed 3 years ago. Last year at this time, which would have been 2 years, they do a Google search. Oh, nobody's talking about his contract. And then, people find out over 3 years that it's a 3-year deal, whatever it is. And then, that's why I said, wait till later this year when you hear about Johnny Gargano, and you hear about Ciampa, and you hear about Candice LeRae, and you hear about a few others. You think, I asked anybody? It's none of my business. But that's how the sausage is made. So you have Dave LaGreca, who is having this rant now about The Rock and everything like that. You know what's funny? I pay attention. I may have been a little bit mentally cloudy for the last 3 weeks, more than my friend. But I noticed that as we got closer to WrestleMania, and The Rock did not do the international tour, people started complaining, wow, The Rock is not even on TV. Kevin and I were the only two people that took notice early on. Why is this guy not on social media? What happened to Cody cunt babies and crybabies and Cody mama roads? I'm going to make you bleed and we're going to do this and Cody, you're a pussy and all this. What are all those rants from there? What changed from last year to this year? Oh, we overstepped last year. This year's WrestleMania, financially, merchandise, views, and everything else blew the fucking doors off of last year. How do you call overstepping when you did twice as good this year than last year? Whether The Rock would have showed up at the very end of WrestleMania 41 or if The Rock didn't, it didn't take away the fact that 125,000 people had already bought tickets. Whether The Rock would have showed up 10 minutes before WrestleMania ended or he didn't, it wouldn't have changed the fact that tens of millions of people were watching this shit. Whether The Rock showed up the last 10 minutes before WrestleMania went off the air or not, it wouldn't have changed the fact of all the fucking people that bought crazy merch. I watched some Pollock on YouTube today. I don't remember his name, Jumboy or something like that. And to look at the title, I got $38,000 VIP ticket to WrestleMania. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And he doesn't even know how to pronounce Io Sky's name. And it's not just cracking jokes. I think the only joke that he said that was funny was, oh, look, they're giving away free real American beer, but you have to use the magic word, the racist word, in order to get the free beer. Ha, ha, ha. This guy knew nothing. And then I'm like, I'm watching it, and I go and I look at his channel, and this is a guy, I ate every item on the KFC menu. I ate everything at Dairy Queen in one sitting. This is what this is. This is a complete fuck up with 3 million viewers. That's who WWE gravitates to. So when you hear this, oh, we overstepped from last year, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? So, didn't forget about Busted Open. So as we're getting closer to Mania and people are complaining, and I don't have anything written down. This is whatever's coming to my head. Some of it's going to sound completely whack. I'm sorry. I don't prepare. Never prepare. I do prepare, but, you know. As we got closer, and people were like, Rock is awfully fucking silent online. And I already told you all why. I give you a hint. It's one letter from the alphabet. You know, you remember Bret Hart when he went like this? I'll give you the hint. It's this. That's the only thing that's different from last year. So, as we got closer, we noticed The Rock is not even on social media. Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray went on Busted Open more than 1 week and were talking about, they liked the idea The Rock is not on TV. They like the idea that The Rock is keeping quiet. Let all the focus be on Cody Rhodes and John Cena. And I'm like, God bless them. God bless them. Because you see where this is going. You get the, it's still real to me, damn it, with the pink sunglasses that will turn around and be the Brian Alvarez of that show. And sure, what happens? It ain't a black thing. It ain't a hip hop thing. It's just a wrestling thing. Travis Scott coming out there and doing this is the worst fucking WrestleMania finish of all time. The Rock has the audacity to go on Pat McAfee show and he says, oh, you know, Travis Scott, he loves wrestling. Oh, so do I. So do I. And so do tens of millions of others. Oh, he loves wrestling. In fact, I don't know if he's training with Booker T school yet. You mean to fucking tell me? Between Elimination Chamber to after WrestleMania, you never fucking texted Travis Scott, John Cena, Santa Claus, Booker T Washington, George Washington, Triple H, anybody? Hey, is Travis taking a bump shot? Is he training? You don't ask that? You're the board of the fucking directors. He knows nothing. He knows nothing. He plays with a Rubik's Cube, wears a New Japan shirt and says, yeah, I like AEW. Doesn't mention who he likes there or why he likes it or anything else. He'll just pick a random person. And he doesn't even do that. And what happens? He goes on Pat McAfee. Deflector. Michael Cole. I didn't forget about him. I said earlier, I loved Michael Cole his entire career. You're not going to tell me after all these years under the Triple H regime or Motorhead and Ozzy Osbourne and everything else and Michael Cole's previous preference in music that he almost orgasms when Lil Yachty is at ringside. Pat, it's Lil Yachty. They fucking do that. And they show all these Netflix people and they show all these fucking performers, not just hip hop, but for some reason it seems like 95% of it is hip hop and all sit in front row. Half of them look pissed the fuck off, you know? And this is what WWE's turned into. Is it Triple H's fault? No. This is TKO. You no longer have a wrestling mind owning the company. You have a conglomerate that owns UFC that can't do half of this stuff because UFC is not scripted. You could create personalities, you could create tension, you could create a lot of mystique and magic leading up to the fight. But once that bell rings, you have no fucking idea who's going to come out on top. You might have a feeling, but you can't turn around and dictate it all the way to the finish. You can't have Travis Scott come out during a UFC fight and then he gets fucking involved. He'll be crying like a baby, getting twisted up into a pretzel. I'd love to hear Pain in auto-tune. So you can't do that. But this is what TKO is. TKO and Netflix is damaging WWE right before our very eyes because everything is circled around Netflix. Everything is circled around social media influencers. Everything is circled around any performer out there that has some type of following. Everybody. Little Yachty, little Bodie, little Schmucky. Doesn't matter who it is. You get a veteran. Oh, look, it's John Mellencamp. The human tampon. John Mellencamp. That's the best you could do? What happened to all, the other performers? This is what WWE is doing, and it's all TKO. And the best part about it with Netflix that nobody realizes that was a $1 billion deal. Saudi Arabia, you only have to worry about it like 2-3 times a year. It's almost like an elderly lady that's about to end her period. She doesn't have to worry about it every month. Just every bunch of months, you got to worry about Saudi Arabia. Got to turn everything upside down so the crown prince feels like, oh, the greatest Royal Rumble, the greatest this, the greatest that, the spectacle, the this, the unbelievable, blah, 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 blah. And then once Saudi Arabia is over, it's back to business. Now Netflix, India. Why do you think WWE is going to plan this gigantic event in India? I kept saying 14,000, my mistake. They got 14 million subscribers in India. You got a population of 1,600,000, 5 times the size of the United States. You could get 10% of that audience to buy Netflix. Netflix's stock will double. WWE's looking at it and they're drooling. Why do you think even Pat McAfee now, holy shh. Remember before, I actually covered This Week in History. Dave Meltzer reported that with Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame speech last year and The Rock's profane promos, this was the official end to the PG era. Then he adds 9 sentences to kind of cover himself because he just lied. He's like, well, it's not necessarily this, and it really depends on this. So this is a blah, 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 blah. And everybody runs with it. We were fucking laughing at it. But right before our very eyes, pro wrestling is changing. And TNA, I don't think, is going to be the alternative. TNA is fun, but TNA is by nowhere near remotely the level of AEW. You know why it never will be? Because Tony Khan is a billionaire. And Tony Khan does not have a wife. He doesn't have alimony. He doesn't have child support. You look at that. I watched not too long ago the movie The Jerk for the umpteenth time. You remember when Steve Martin got all that money and they got the juggling cats? Not the cats! Not the cats! Tony Khan, it's just wrestling. That's what his life is. Wrestling in a yacht. Big yachty. Big yachty. That's what he's got. So Tony Khan will outright TNA. And let me tell you something, Tony Khan is a threat to the future of wrestling. Because imagine everything that you want on eBay. Every time you bid on it, somebody outbids you a gross amount because they can afford it. You can't. You start putting that mindset out there. And that's why WWE is standing their ground with a lot of wrestlers. You look at Stephanie Vacker. That Stephanie Vacker story is one of the stories of the year. When she talked about how AEW offered her big fucking bucks, nowhere near, WWE didn't offer anywhere near what AEW was offering. But Shawn Michaels said to her, do you want financial security right now? You want to build a legacy, build a career, and build this. And she went with it. Not everybody has got the mindset of Stephanie Vacker. There's a lot of people out there, and I do not besmirch any wrestler in AEW right now that is financially setting their family for life, that is financially setting themselves, because as long as they can make Tony Khan happy, and as long as they can give just enough to keep him happy, then they're set. The problem is, 2, 3, 4 years ago, a lot of these wrestlers signed for low amounts of money. And you realize now who tickles Tony Khan's thigh, who gives him that special feeling. If you notice on TV, you look at AEW results from 2 years ago and to now, with the exception of Okada not being around much and Mercedes Moné not being a thing yet, you look at a lot of the results, you look at a lot of the people, it's just like a circle going like this, going like this. And when you say to yourself, why can't Hobbs become a world champion? Yeah, I'm sure at some point, if Swerve gets injured and someone else is out, it's this and that, and there's like a little bit of a lull and there's something else big going on, yeah, you could sneak a championship to anybody. You know, when you look at Lance Archer, I laughed last year with Lance Archer. I am one of the biggest Lance Archer fans in AEW. And I said this 4 years ago. I said, watch what happens. I said, every year it's going to be the same thing. He gets used and misused. And then people start complaining like, wow, you know, like they're not doing nothing with Lance Archer. And then what'll happen, they'll get 1 or 2 wins on AEW Dynamite or on Collision or Rampage or whatever it was at the time. And, you know, people are like, oh, he's starting to get wins. They're finally giving him a push. They're finally giving him something. And then it's him versus Bryan Danielson or him versus Will Ospreay, him versus, I'm like, there's the end. There's the end. But he's in a faction. Oh my God, did you see Don Callis and Jose the whoever it was? They did this trade. We haven't seen trades with managers since Bobby the Brain Heenan. How did that work out? How did that work out? So we right now are dealing with a huge fucking problem because Triple H, and I'm going back to this right now, Triple H goes on the flagrant. And this was very, very, very startling because Triple H, and I got to tell you this, out of everything I said so far, this is probably the most important thing. As far as not connecting with the fans, this is what he says. Sometimes you're wrong, but the truth is you can't judge the story you're being told by the moment in time you're in and how people are reacting to it, because hopefully if you're smart, you know where the story is going. If you believe in the story and the payoff, you're going to go through times where people are like, this sucks. I don't like this. He actually said that. Now, if you base that on WrestleMania 40, then Kevin and I were right last year. Cody was finishing his story. They just threw the curveball with The Rock because there was still 6-7 weeks early. And they didn't know, how do we keep the interest in Cody for the next 7 weeks? Oh, I get it. We'll make it seem like The Rock is hijacking WWE and taking control of it. And then the fans will protest and it'll be the yes movement all over again. And then We Want Cody will be manufactured and get pushed. And then within 3 days, The Rock changes the landscape. No, not The Rock, TKO. And then suddenly everything is back again. Everything is back to where it was, 72 magical hours. You say that based on what Triple H just said. They lied last year. Or WWE Unreal should have started a year ago. But you know what's the problem with what Triple H just said? Okay, if it's the final testament, this sucks. I don't like this. Fine. If it's LA Knight, the way he's being, this sucks. I don't like this. If it's the new bloodline, this sucks. I don't like this. Fine. You want to say it about the tag team division? This sucks. I don't like this. Fine. You don't say that about Cody Rhodes and John Cena and the main event of WrestleMania 41. You don't give the fans, well, they know how it's going to play out. Oh, really? That's what Vince McMahon used to say. I'll never forget it. When Vince McMahon was making out with Trish Stratus, and Linda McMahon did her best impersonation of Terry Schiavo, and Linda McMahon was like this. We were outraged. Vince McMahon did an interview. Linda McMahon actually did an interview back then also and said, in the end, Mr. McMahon will get his. Then this is what Triple H is saying to the T. If you know the story, then you know where it's going to end up. I don't think anybody in their wildest fucking dreams paid that kind of money to go to WrestleMania, paid that much emotional investment like we all did, and we were going into WrestleMania and said, The Rock ain't going to be there. Travis Scott is going to come out, and Travis Scott is going to cost Cody the world championship all by his lonesome. Please send me a prediction show that said that. The whole time, The Rock was never going to be there, never hyping it up because they don't want to. Why wouldn't you want to replicate last year? You fucking exceeded last year leading up to this. So Triple H goes on to say, this sucks. I don't like it. But I'm going to tune into next week to see if they fix this. He actually said that. Fans are saying, this sucks. I don't like it. But I'm going to tune into next week to see how they fix it. You know who used to do that? Sorry, bro. Have to say it. WCW in 2000. Doing 7 world title changes before a woman could have her next period. Oh, we'll see what happens next week. Maybe they'll fix this. This is the mindset of Triple H. And guess what? He goes on Mr. Flagrant, Mr. Schmucko, and you don't know comeback lines. Because you have a comeback. What happens after the show? The fuck was that? Why are you challenging me? You look at Pat McAfee. You look at Pat McAfee, good for him. He created an unbelievable brand for himself. But everybody flocks to the Pat McAfee show because Pat McAfee knows where his bread is being buttered. So Pat McAfee goes on his show and does what he does. And, he interviews The Rock and he interviews everybody and they could say anything they fucking want. He just sits there. He just goes along with it, puts a smile on his face, wears a tank top, all sweated up, says a couple of curse words, drinks a bottled water, and yeah. That helped tremendously. Make no mistake about it. Something else that The Rock said. Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber. Before I say Elimination Chamber, and then we'll start taking questions. As far as how long stories can play out, this is what Triple H said. I'm not going to say that we're always successful at it. No one has 100% batting average. Actually, Triple H is 1,000%, but okay. But I like to think we're pretty good at it. You cannot panic. Rock says all the time, when he'll come in, that stupid Rock did this thing. He's like, just shut up and enjoy the ride. I don't even want to read any more of it. I really don't even, and that's not rehearsed. You've had The Rock, when they were in New Orleans, SmackDown, you had The Rock, after the show was over, reminding us that what you're seeing in the ring are characters. You had Triple H do a conference in New York City, do a post-pay-per-view, premium live event conference, and they remind us that those are characters out there. Why do you think John Cena says nothing the last 3 press conferences? But he opens up about everything in his fucking godmother on the Pat McAfee show. Oh, I have nothing to say. I'm only sitting here because I have to. Because he knows that some journalists out there is going to ask a legit question and they don't want to deal with it. Sorry, it's not the Pat McAfee show. So I'll just play asshole. But the reason why John Cena's still getting cheered the fuck is because you've had Triple H and The Rock repeatedly over the last couple of months remind us those are characters in that ring. Imagine going to a magic show, and before they even do one magic trick, you got some dickhead come out and say, guys, later on when you see this, we don't want to freak anybody out. Nobody's really getting sawed in half. Remember, this is how they did it. This is how they did it. Imagine going to a horror film. And before the movie starts, when the I don't know if they still have the animated like drinks and popcorns walk by, like go buy food at the concession, that they show you like what you're about to see is not real. You know, Jason didn't really kill anybody. In fact, this is how they did it. Nobody believes that John Cena suddenly turned against his fans. You saw that line after he won the championship. It was the biggest. People were spending $500 just to stand next to him over and over and over. Guess what? Every fucking person that went up to him, he was nothing but gracious, respectful, and liked. John Cena hasn't changed at all. And you're telling us over and over and over again, you're reminding us that what you're watching in that ring are characters. And guess what? You know what that hurts? Doesn't just hurt John Cena. Doesn't hurt him because everybody sees that he's taking a chicken shit storyline and trying to turn it into chicken salad. But you think back to Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. We know what it is, but people are convinced otherwise, and there's somebody takes a picture, rumored to be, I think, Odyssey Jones who took the picture. And people are training in the ring before a Raw, and they're standing like right near each other in the ringside. Drew McIntyre, God bless his soul, tries to do the Iron Sheik Jim Duggan thing. My car broke down, and he is the only person who drove by. And I took the ride, but I still despise him. How poor. Then you think of CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Yeah, they definitely despised each other. But many people believe that they buried the hatchet and did what's best for business because they love professional wrestling. Now professional wrestling is an allowed word. Why is professional wrestling an allowed word? Because when you take away somewhere else, you got to make up for it in a different area. There's something called the balancing scale. When WWE is balanced, that's where it's at its best. You don't have everything lopsided like this. You don't have everything lopsided like this. You try to get a balance. So when you see El Schmucky get involved and somebody with prime energy and some fucking schmuck always get involved and nobody in the back is ever offended, come out or anything, or you see Pat McAfee gets choked out by Gunther and you got 18 people going in the locker, into the trainer's room. Did you see that on Raw? 18 fucking people. All his fucking show are all going in that locker room. I'm like, if I'm Pat McAfee, I'm like, you little fucking girly boy. Need 18 people to go in your trainer's room? You know, it's just that look of it because everybody wants to be like a little celebrity here. So you have Elimination Chamber and you have Triple H and The Rock. They're the only two that have the authorization to say that. You will never hear a professional wrestler say that. You won't hear an LA Knight. You won't hear a Drew McIntyre, or CM Punk, or Seth Rollins, or Roman Reigns. The closest Roman Reigns you'll ever get is when Roman Reigns said last year, when we blur the lines between real and entertainment, when we can really blur those lines, you know we got them. Why would you make a comment like that right after The Rock says that he's going to put Cody's story aside and he's going to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Why would you say something like that? That was the closest you'll ever get of a wrestler saying that. So now when you watch on TV and they're trying to develop really, really good heat, guess what? Pat McAfee could go on Raw tomorrow and reveal he's got cancer and needs to take time off. Or Gunther fucking blew a blood vessel and he's got to stay off TV because the other blood vessels may burst and he'll be out of here. All right? I don't care what he says on TV tomorrow. All I know is that, oh, so this is how they're writing Gunther off TV so he doesn't go after Jey Uso in a rematch, because then they got to figure out, how do we make Gunther lose a second time? Cody Rhodes, oh, he just incognito. And then Randy Orton shows up and it's like, okay, because we're still so into Randy still, that we can set aside Cody right now. Because we were getting a little tired of Cody. See, Rock did not go on social media and try to enhance this storyline or make it stronger, was because they didn't want the scale with Cody and John Cena to be like this. When you have John Cena trying to play off that he wants to convince fans that he was misled for 20 years, 8-year-old kids will believe that. 18 and 28-year-olds and 38-year-olds and 48-year-olds, some may believe it, but then they're reminded from Triple H and The Rock that these are just characters in the ring. That's like when Tony Schiavone, when he was in WCW, anybody remember that? I don't know if it was Rick Steiner or I don't remember who it was, but he literally, something happened on TV and he's like, you know, guys, look, this was not in the script. That was real. You know why we still remember that after 24 years or whatever it is? Yeah, 24 years. Because it was one of the most dumbest things to say to fucking people who your job is to suspend disbelief 24/7, 365. Now you see on Netflix, hey guys, I know how we can add content to Netflix. Let's fucking show everyone how we fucking bullshit them. Let's fucking show it. And now you know what's going to happen? You're going to have something with Gunther or somebody with WWE Unreal, and they're going to flip the fuck out, and it's going to seem like, oh my God, he actually went against management. And guess what? You can't believe that either. Because when the cameras go off there, good job, Gunther, good job. Good job. You won't be able to figure out what the fuck is true and what isn't. Elimination Chamber. Okay? Elimination Chamber. We get Elimination Chamber. And Cody Rhodes ends up getting assistance from Travis Scott and The Rock. If you didn't check out The Rock's appearance on Pat McAfee the other day, The Rock says that the reason why he was at Chamber was because Ari Emanuel called him up and said, we need to shake it up on Elimination Chamber, get more interest. My friends, I know some of you believe WrestleTix has the most accurate numbers, and they don't, because they're still outside reading web pages just like we all do. And they monitor it, and they do a good job. If you go back in time, go steal Michael J. Fox's fucking DeLorean. Go back about 3 weeks, 2 weeks before Elimination Chamber. There was no low ticket sales. There was no lack of interest online. We were all fucking buzzing. Who's going to win the women's chamber? Who's going to win the men's chamber? Most of us thought CM Punk was going to win the chamber and challenge Cody Rhodes for WrestleMania. There was no lack of anything. Even the staunch dislikers of WWE that cover news, go 2 weeks before. Google's not in their back pocket yet. Do a Google search and do a time search and look 2-3 weeks before the chamber, and you will find nothing. You will not find any news reports. Elimination Chamber is nowhere near the interest that WWE are fearing that there's going to be a low turnout. This is not Elimination Chamber. Ari Emanuel. Now, have you figured it out yet? He didn't get a call from Triple H. And Ari Emanuel did not call Triple H. Ari Emanuel, who is not a writer for the WWE, who's not a booker for WWE, calls The Rock and says, we need to spice this up a little bit, get more interest, get people talking. Why didn't Ari Emanuel just talk to Triple H and get the pulse? Why didn't he talk to Nick Khan and Triple H and everybody else who they trust? Because here's the deal. Ari Emanuel tells Triple H, you're driving to Connecticut. In fact, you're in New York. You're driving to California. But boss, why don't I take a plane? I could get there in 6 hours. No, you're driving. Take whatever highway you want. Just make sure you get there. That's what's going on in WWE right now. Ari Emanuel is the one running the ship because that motherfucker, you talk about overstepping, just let this sink in for a minute. The Rock claims that they overstepped last year. So he pulled back this year. So what do you think is worse? The Rock, who has a storied wrestling career, interjecting himself because he thinks what's best for business. What do you think is overstepping more? The Rock doing it last year or somebody that has no wrestling background, Ari Emanuel, who's involved in Endeavor, TKO, nothing, and going over Triple H's head and saying to The Rock, go to Elimination Chamber. Listen, I'm sure they told Triple H, but just let it sink in how The Rock said it to Pat McAfee. And what does McAfee do? He just sits there with that fucking Mojo Rawley grin on his face. And he's probably saying, look how many views I'm going to get for this fucking clip. These are the board of deflectors. Ari Emanuel is running the ship right now. And Ari Emanuel has no wrestling background. He just cares about the bottom line. And that should scare you. Because Vince McMahon cared about the bottom line more than anything else, but at least Vince McMahon fucking had a life in professional wrestling and had a connection to it. These are businessmen. These are executives. These are billionaires that are dictating what they feel we should see. You think of Triple H in NXT before Vince was gone. When every clown was saying, Vince is erasing Triple H's legacy. It's just ridiculously stupid. You think of Triple H bringing along the Four Horsewomen, bringing along the Bianca Belairs, the Rhea Ripleys, leading into what we have now. Not Shawn Michaels doing a spectacular job. But you think of Triple H at that time. I'm sorry. I remember Poppy being there. I don't remember El Papo Rapo being there. I don't remember this gigantic, podcaster, social media influencer, YouTuber, TikToker, Tick Schmucker, this and that, rapper, musician. I don't remember all of this fucking outside noise circled around it. And there was no news reports. Triple H feels that there should be a bigger social influence and this and that. But he just went on the Flagrant show and says, that noise. Just if you did not believe me that Triple H is the ultimate deflector, like I'll do my Vince impersonation. The ultimate deflector. You know why Triple H is the ultimate deflector? Think about this. He said on that same show that the social media noise is a microcosm of the wrestling world. Okay? But yet, every YouTuber and social media influencer that has any type of following are on his fucking shows. If the voices in wrestling do not reflect, are just a tiny little percentage of the overall audience, every fucking person that sits at ringside, unless there's a fucking big red N next to their name, they seem to get TV play. The same people that 300,000 viewers, that's a microcosm. These are just that doesn't represent WWE. They're all over your fucking TV. These people are deflectors. And let me tell you something. Nothing against Busted Open personally. I swear to God. They know this. This is a business. And they're making crazy money off of WWE. Dave LaGreca, who does not work there, will be the Brian Alvarez of that show. It's still real to me, damn it. And he's such a nice guy, and he loves wrestling so much. I don't fucking love wrestling. JD don't love wrestling. Solomonson don't love wrestling. Fucking Cronin don't love wrestling. Fucking Gorilla Position don't love. And we all fucking love wrestling. But because he's got this big followership, you know, he's so nice. He's like a puppy dog. He instead of banging your wife and staying at home with your family and playing with your dog in your yard and fucking going taking a drive into the mountains. No, let me go to New York City and let's have a We Want Cody rally down the block from a Palestinian Gaza-Israeli conflict rally. You know, your priorities all out of whack. But this is what WWE goes to. Pat McAfee show. You know, some YouTubers. Why do you think now? Have you noticed a little change when they show fan reaction of wins? See, up until this, well, last year too, but mostly this year, but over the last 6 months, when they would show fan reaction of podcasters, they looked to see for fan reaction online. And, you know, somebody wins a belt and they'll show podcasts, they'll be like this. And they get, if they're lucky, a little appearance. This year, almost everybody that they showed have big followers. And what happens? I don't want to name the guy. I was kind of happy for him. But he was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I was just showing it the night after WrestleMania. Oh my God, they showed my reaction. Cody, no, Cody, kick out. If I was doing a watch along, and I truly was sitting here at 56 years old, and my wife is in the other room, and she hears me yelling at the screen right now, Cody, no, kick out, kill Cody. My wife would be like, no sex in the champagne room. Like, you could tell that these people are like, is my light on? Is it recording? Oh, good. And what happens? Oh my God, they put me on TV. How can I trash them? I'm going to do it even more now. Maybe I'll get on TV again. So that's what they're doing. Anybody that has any type of influence that goes in their favor are getting rewarded in different ways. And this is really, really fucking dangerous right now. This is really dangerous because I got news for you. Right now, there's a good balance, good scale. Okay, we're going to have fucking foam people dressed up in Prime outfits. We're going to have this douchebag come out. We're going to have this guy come out with this rapper that he's 110 pounds soaking wet, but he loves wrestling and he's supposed to train at Booker T school and he's a great fucking singer. Yeah, but he don't wrestle. I don't see any of these wrestlers going into Travis Scott's studio and going, like, I don't see them fucking performing at his concert. Yeah, you might have Triple H show up and spit water and everyone's, oh yeah, Triple H. They ain't fucking auto-tuning with him. There's no fucking serenading. They're not going in his studio. Why is it going in our studio? Because that's what TKO wants. They want the crossover. The more people that WWE could identify outside of wrestling, the better of a chance that other people will tune in. The more, and you know why that's dangerous? Because what happens when Travis Scott is no longer here? What happens when a Netflix show gets canceled? What happens when the Flagrant is no longer podcasting? What are you going to do then? So right now, they're replacing agitated wrestling fans with non-wrestling fans. I brought this up on Patreon many months ago. It's not a black thing or a white thing, but I noticed something. I was looking at the debut of NXT on CW. And I will never forget it. And if you think I'm lying, just go on Twitter and just write NXT on CW debut. You will see enough of them. I was looking to see the reaction of non-wrestling fans that tune in to see what they liked about it, because the average age for CW's demo leading into this year was 53. It's either 51 or 53. It's a very high number when you think of what CW was doing before. CW was trying to get their demo younger. So NXT comes in, and I was curious to see what non-wrestling fans, if they were digging it. And what I noticed is a majority of them were 20-something-year-old guys, mostly black, and almost all of them would be like, woohoo! Jada Parker, look at that ass. Homeboys, you got to tune into this shit. Look at that ass. They got fucking some hot women in NXT. Think I'm kidding? Go look on Twitter. I was looking for non-wrestling fans to see their reaction of watching NXT. And all I kept seeing over and over again was, woohoo! Look at that. Oh my God. Lola Vice. Trust me, when I dance, I look like the little chipmunk from Caddyshack, so forget me. And I was like, huh. And that's what was really attracting, some non-wrestling fans. So when you're replacing lifelong committed wrestling fans and you're writing them off like Triple H did, saying like, oh, well, they'll say this sucks, but I'll tune into next week to see how they fixed it. No, you did not fix Cody Rhodes and John Cena by having Randy Orton RKO John Cena. Because now, where is Cody Rhodes? Roman Reigns last year lost to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, and he vanished. And then you had a bunch of people, maybe you win the Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns pulled himself out of the Royal Rumble. And so what happened? Absence, that's how they fixed it. Absence makes the heart go fonder. We will give you blue balls for Roman Reigns. We will tease you a Roman Reigns return until your balls are so fucking blue that when he shows up, no matter what he does, he could show up on TV and just fart. And people are like, oh my God, he's back. He's back. I love you. I love you, Roman. Why? Think about everything that led up to that point. Why? Because Solo Sikoa turned into a douchebag? This is how they, you know what this tells me? They don't have no year long in advance anymore. They're booking for the moment. They're booking for the fucking moment. Because with The Rock didn't even have the respect leading up to WrestleMania. Just go on social media and fucking put over 55 people who were working the card. Put over the shows leading up to it. And if anybody's going to say to me, well, because he wasn't going to be on it, he didn't say anything because he didn't want to direct attention to him. Well, then you have to come up with something better than being a deflector on a Pat McAfee show and say, Ari Emanuel wanted me to show up on Elimination Chamber, but after, I did to John Cena, that was enough. And they want, I felt like I should step back because I'm doing other projects. What was your excuse last year? You were doing projects right after. You remember what we were supposed to believe, that Rock was going to beat Roman Reigns and retire the belt and then do his MMA movie. That was the original plan. Just screw Cody Rhodes in the ass, a year and a half chasing the story, recreating Dusty, doing a documentary on Dusty, doing a documentary on Cody going on every house show, and after the house show's over, cutting promos saying, if I don't win the title this time, I will never come back to this show ever, to this arena ever again. I give you my word. And it was just too much Dusty 1981. And you're going to take a year and a half of that, and The Rock, everybody thinks The Rock is like some steroid, unhinged maniac that because he pees in a bottle, there's something mentally wrong with him. People think that The Rock doesn't think straight. The Rock is one of the most intelligent people on this earth. And when The Rock turns around and tells Dave LaGreca the other day, just shut up, enjoy the ride. That's basically Rock saying, relax, shut up, just go along with it. This is what we are now. It's what it is. They're not going to throw shade to Ari Emanuel. They're not going to throw shade to Nick Khan. They're not going to throw shade to their business. What do you, just let it sink in. If Netflix, just pretend that Netflix came up with the idea. Hey, Paul, we were thinking, can we do a show like bringing the cameras backstage? You know, we can record like how the writing is done. And I can imagine Triple H thinking of Vince McMahon at that very moment. He's like, let me think about this for a minute. Wrestling with shadows. That didn't work out very good. Yeah. You expose all the perceived heat with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. You expose all, and you know it's great? I want to see how fucking far back they go. Remember, my friends, they record everything. The only area they don't record is in the bathroom stalls and the showers. They record everything. So when WWE Unreal begins and it starts this year, what's stopping Triple H from telling the production meeting, all right, listen, at 11 o'clock, the Netflix people are going to come in, and he tells the wrestlers, wink, wink, you go along with it. And, Jay, we're going to do this. So I will make a prediction. I will make a prediction that WWE Unreal will start right after WrestleMania 40 last year, maybe like 6 months after. I think that's what they'll do. You know why? Because you don't suddenly have 41 and have this the way it is and then announce, in 2 months, we're going to show all it. They have to, it was funny. Stephanie McMahon interviewed Charlotte. I'm sure some of you have seen it, right? Steffi's Places. Steffi is bored of being home with the kids, decides she wants to interview a few people, whatever the name of the show is. And people are talking about Charlotte this and Charlotte that. I'm like, you do realize this interview was recorded a year ago. So the fact that they're doing this show now, this was something discussed last year. Off of WrestleMania 40 with Roman Reigns, when the fans can't figure out where the lines are blurred, that's when we know we got them. Right after WrestleMania, that's where they decided, let's kick it up a notch. And listen, Jay, come here. Tell your dad, not to worry, but we're going to kind of like fuck with you a little bit on TV, and then we're going to put the Jets behind you, and we're going to give you this. We're going to put the world title on you. Now, if that really happened, and Gunther, how do you explain Gunther? Are you going to show footage going up to Gunther? Gunther, you're going to tap out at WrestleMania 41. You're going to tap out. We're going to put the belt on Jay, and we're going to have you tap out, and this and that. And how does that make Gunther look? What's he going to do, storm out? Just like when Drew McIntyre stormed out a Survivor Series, just like when Drew McIntyre stormed out a Busted Opens interview, and the next day he's on Instagram with fucking cartoon characters on his head talking about making fun of John Cena, everybody else. Before those cameras start rolling, hey guys, you know what to do. That's what this is going to be. And if it is 100% legit, they're going to fuck people up. And the worst part about it is you can't even go to AEW because of what is going on there. It is a step down, huge. TNA is even a bigger step down. NXT is not meant to be the polished replacement, but the problem you got to all realize is that people are still paying crazy amounts of money for this. Did you see that woman that talked to Randy Orton in the lobby? We spent $30,000 on tickets or for the weekend. And when you hear that and you're Randy Orton, Randy's like, oh, that's embarrassing. Then you got to be honest, take a little step back, say, hold your horses. Hold your horses, lady. You went to SmackDown. You went to WrestleMania Night 1. You went to the Hall of Fame. You went to WrestleMania Night 2. You went to the Raw after WrestleMania. You're a family of 4. That's 20 fucking tickets. It's still a lot of money. Oh, but we had food. And we had lodging. Yeah, of course you're going to spend $30,000. If I turn around and say, guys, for the next 20 days, I'm going to go see the Yankees wherever they fucking play. And I'm going to get fucking great, tickets for some, and some I'm going to have to say in the Boondocks. And I come back and I say, all right, Mr. Judge, I spent $20,000 on going to the Yankee games. Oh, that's embarrassing. And then you find out how many fucking games I went to, and then you start adding up the lodging and the planes and hotels and food, and like, the fuck told you to, it's like, when you go to a whorehouse, you go for, one orgasm and you're done. You don't fucking sit there, smoke cigarettes all day long and say, nah, I'm going to hang around 5 times. So when you walk out there and say, I spent $3,000 yesterday in a whorehouse. Wow, that's embarrassing. And then you find out, well, I scored 5 different times. I don't know if anybody that goes, but you know what I'm saying. You go to a restaurant, I dropped $2,000 in the restaurant. Then you find out they have breakfast, lunch, dinner, brunch, and midnight buffet. When people stop paying this kind of money, that's when WWE will start changing shit up. What you got to be worried about is that you have non-wrestling people running the ship. They trust Triple H to steer it in the right direction. But at any whim, Ari Emanuel could pull a card and say, we want to do this. What is Triple H going to say? No. Is Ari Emanuel contacting The Rock for Elimination Chamber? Is that going to be on WWE Unreal? Is it going to make Triple H look like a victim? Is it going to feel like last year when The Rock said, this is bullshit? Remember when he had the slap from Cody and, you better fix this? Is that what we're going to get? This is damaging wrestling right before our very eyes. But again, it's like a smoker that's just puffing for about 5 years. It's going to take many years of pulling this shit off. And let me tell you something. I'll still watch, and I'm sure a lot of you will still watch, but it won't be our unbelievable top priority anymore. And that's when you got to start worrying about it. You can't turn around and fuck with people over and over and over again. And next year, when El Grino Yapo suddenly becomes a social media icon and, is the hottest entertainer around, and suddenly we'll put him out there. Or you think, hey, Bunny, you want to come back? Bunny, I think it's time. And you put Bunny out there for 42. You start doing that stuff, I'm telling you, it's going to get to a point. You could put out there fucking Jesus Christ. And people will be like, no, thank you. I'm telling you, it's going to take a lot of years, but they did a lot of damage this year. You know what they did? It's kind of like a scam. It's what WWE did this year is like OnlyFans. This is what WWE did this year. I think some of you will relate because I've been told a lot of funny stories about the Tammy stuff. What Tammy used to do, and trust me, I was friends with some of her friends, so we knew what was going on. I even talked to her ex-boyfriend, Pent, back then. What Tammy used to do is Tammy would have these hardcore Sunny fans from the 90s that's joined her OnlyFans page, whatever it was. And she would have a membership, $30 a month or whatever it was. And what she would do is she would put up videos and would charge $5, $10 for a video, nothing major. And then you would find a couple of people or a bunch of people that were your diehards that had money. And you're like, let me groom that person and let me, get them. Okay, now you're going to give us $20. Oh, you like that? Okay, what about you want to see it in my ass now? Here's $50. You want to see someone put it in my ass? Here's $100. All right, here's the Wrestlemania of it all, $500. And you throw that $500 and you are left. You're left with a limp biscuit. And then you're like, holy shit, I just blew all this goddamn money. And yes, I had some fun. Let's not pretend WrestleMania 41 was great in a lot of ways. It was great in a lot of ways. But in the end, the 2 world heavyweight championships, when people were like, oh, Jey Uso winning the championship got 38,000 dislikes on YouTube. I'm like, you disingenuous asshole. He didn't get 38,000 likes because he won the belt. He got 38,000 dislikes. He didn't get that dislikes because he won the belt. He got 38,000 dislikes because Gunther tapped out in 3 seconds. That's why they disliked it. They don't care. They're not upset about the outcome. That's why even, and I don't put Ariel Helwani in this, and I don't put Chris Van Vliet in this. They're not part of the board of disruptors. Vliet does overall interviews, and it's more personality conversations. And Ariel Helwani is not looking to, get that kind of an interview. It's more an overall thing. So they're not included in this. They're okay. But when you pay very close attention who WWE rubs elbows with, they're all part of the board of disruptors. They go to safe spaces. And everybody else that goes against it, either they don't matter, their voice is a microcosm. Look at the overall. There was a shitload of people that spent a crazy amount of money and fucking went home, with some very big bills. And you think WWE cares? You think you're going to start a Make-A-Wish for people who got flat broke off for WrestleMania? Yeah, I have broke-itis. John, come to my house. I have broke-itis. I only have 5 months left of money. I only have 5 months financially to live. I have broke-itis. I'm suffering from a severe case of broke-itis. Jay, can you yeet over to my house and make me feel better? So there's a lot of people that were left very underwhelmed for WrestleMania 41. But as long as you have that many bullets in the chamber, as long as you have those main eventers, and make no mistake about it, when you look at that roster from a year ago to today, the people overall, their stock has gone up. Drew McIntyre's stock, even though his WrestleMania match this year was not valued high, although it kicked ass, Drew McIntyre's WrestleMania, his value has gone up from a year ago. Last year, he lost that championship because CM Punk was still mending his injury. You look at McIntyre from a year ago to now, his value has gone up. You look at Seth Rollins from a year ago to now. Remember last year, we were all laughing at Seth Rollins. He did the run-in for night 2 and he fucking hurt himself. His stock has gone up. Roman Reigns, his stock is still on that level because absence makes the heart grow fonder. Whether you like it or not, Solo Sikoa's stock has gone up a little bit. The people who can still fill that main event role, CM Punk's stock has gone up. I could throw out a lot of names. A lot of people's stock is much higher now than what it was a year ago. So you got too many people right now there that can fill those voids. But 5 years from now, it's going to be really interesting how many times you're going to, do that. And when you see, that's why they keep going overseas like they now more than ever. They're covering up the fact that they would have a much more difficult time in the United States selling out like that. And that's why they have to give you 2 nights. Just imagine, in the past, you would get 13 WrestleMania matches in one night, 4 hours, 5 hours. Yeah, you're exhausted by the night was over. But you got breakfast, lunch, and dinner all in the same show. Now you got to pay twice in order to get all those matches. And you're left underwhelmed on both nights. I'm telling you, as long as people keep paying that money, they'll keep charging it. All right. Let's get into some questions. I ranted almost 90 minutes already, so we're going to bring this home still. We'll bring it home soon. I just wanted to get back into this flow. And listen, I want to say this with the utmost sincerity. If I offended anybody tonight with some of the things that I said, it is not meant with any malice. This is just my style. It's the way it's always been. I have been a little bit too careful in the last bunch of years. And I think it's about time that we just say it straight out. And, like I said, I don't want to say who it is, but somebody that works on television who I was talking to about Kev, and he was reminding me why he loved Kevin and I so much, even from back in the day. And what he said was, you know, you complimented people who deserved it. You criticized people who deserved it also. You said what you had to say, and sometimes you would just say, fuck you, to someone who needed to hear it. And unfortunately, in this day and age, there's a lot of people who can't do that. And like I said, you look at Busted Open, and Dave LaGreca's passionate rant about his displeasure, and The Rock actually responded to him. Why? Leading up to WrestleMania, you have your two fellow co-hosts saying, you know, I think it's a great idea that The Rock is not on TV. I think it's a great idea that The Rock's not getting involved with this. Where was Dave LaGreca? Oh, he wasn't on the episodes. Gee, where was the rants leading up to this? No, sir. Why is Rock not on social media? Why is Rock not on Twitter going after Cody? Oh, I get it. Let's not really make Cody this unbelievable babyface again. Let's kind of like remember WrestleMania weekend? What did the announcers keep saying? You know, this is giving me Rock Hogan vibes. Sam Roberts. Yeah, strategic Sam. You know, this could be another Rock Hogan. Gee, I wonder who fucking fed that shit to you. Why would anybody think that Cody would be booed in favor of John when you got Travis Scott? And that's another thing. I got to say this before we get to questions. This hurt Cody so bad also because some fucking producer said to Cody, you got potatoed from Travis Scott. He didn't mean it, but he fucking busted your eardrum and gave you a black eye. And not only that, it looked ridiculous that a 110-pound rapper fucking laid out a professional wrestler. You did nothing about it. And then the day of WrestleMania, when a fan says to Travis Scott on camera, you're getting a receipt tonight. And Travis Scott's response is, I'm going to get that bitch ass N. I'm not going to repeat the word. And then Cody finally gets his hands on him. And Cody says, all right, I finally got my revenge. I'm going to hit you at Crossroads. I would have fucking grabbed him by the nuts and say, sing now, bitch. Let's see that auto-tune. Beg. I want to hear it. I don't even want to hear you beg. I want to hear it in auto-tune. Beg. He fucking hits Crossroads. You just let that sink in. You give a receipt. And let me hit him with my finisher. By the way, I got to share something with you. This uplifted me a little bit today because I haven't been able to laugh that much. It's only so many times I could look at myself in the mirror naked and you don't laugh anymore. You start crying. I was preparing a little bit today for next week's history show. And this week coming up is the anniversary where Chris Jericho in 2019 showed up as the Painmaker and challenged Kenny Omega to a match in Japan. And when I go back and I watch it, and I invite anybody to go out there and watch it as well, when Chris Jericho's putting the makeup on in the promo and he challenges Kenny Omega, I realize now why I laughed so hard when I watched that promo in 2019. If you go back and you watch it, Chris Jericho does his greatest impersonation of Sam Kinison. If anybody remembers Sam Kinison, Chris Jericho is looking at the camera. He says, I'm going to win. And he does like the greatest Sam Kinison. He's like, I'm going to win. It's the funniest thing. When you watch it, you'll just think of Sam Kinison. And when I do the history show this week, I will play a clip of Sam Kinison right after it. And it's identical. It's the funniest thing. If you really want a good laugh, go watch it back. Chris Jericho, he looks and sounds just like Sam Kinison doing that. So, all right. Just a couple of super shout outs, if you don't mind. Ronnie C asking about Mariah May. We'll get back to Mariah May in a minute. Blah, blah, blah. Nathan Timblin, thank you for the 10 pounds. I watch on demand as I live in the UK. Just want to show my appreciation to you after a couple of difficult weeks. Thanks for still carrying on, Kev. He would be proud of you. I miss him. A lot of people miss him. He will never be replaced. People have asked me like, what if another show like wants you to like join them up? Would I consider it? Yeah, of course I would consider it, but there would always be in one condition: DTKC content still stays, and I get to just spread it around. I promise you, and I'm not profiting off of it. I want to make that clear. Some people a little bit, they mean well, but it comes off really, really cold. And I will keep his name alive. If I can, I'll put him on a graphic every time, even like today's show. When I originally did the thumbnail for today's show, I didn't have him in the corner. I'm like, no, you know what? I got to put him on the banner. Just a little tribute to him. So he will never be forgotten. He will never be forgotten. And let me tell you something. It was beautiful. I will tell you, what thing I kept being told Friday when I went to the funeral home? I was told this from like 9 different people. They said it was like a movie, that Kevin and I got back together and just had magic doing these shows. And it was just beautiful that we were able to reconcile our differences and come back and, just really nail it out of the park. And I said repeatedly on Friday, I said, I would have felt crushed if he would have went out like this and I had never made amends with him. So I am very, very happy, that, we did leave on a high note. Just not the way I wanted it. And believe me, I did not want the only time for me to ever see Kev in person is, him, deceased. It was rough, but I honestly felt this presence there. I'm telling you, I stood in front of him for about 5 minutes or so, just, talking inside, saying a few things, looking at his card and the flowers. And I felt that his presence, and I told him, I said, you will not be forgotten. And, it was just, it is what it is. So I hope I could stick around for a while. It does get you nervous. I don't want to talk about it here, but I have to get a sleep study done on May 5th. My doctor's worried about sleep apnea. And, it's only so much you could just say, he's not too much. So I'm going to look out for my health a little bit more and be a little bit more aware. So, all right, Ronnie, we'll get back to you. Tommy D. I hate The Rock. I hate Pat McAfee, and I'm really starting to hate Triple H. I don't hate Triple H, but I am reminded that Triple H works for Ari Emanuel. And Triple H will always come across as WWE first, fans first. He's fighting for all of us. But I think deep down inside, he's got the Vince McMahon mentality. When you see him on interviews like The Flagrant, if you just change the recap to Vince McMahon, a lot of what he said, Vince said. A lot of what he said, you cannot turn around and say to me, and I want to make this clear, and I think this is where people get it wrong. Triple H was around Vince McMahon since 1995. Do you remember the Triple H show in 2002? Tons of people stopped tuning into wrestling because of the Triple H show. Triple H had no problem being the focal point on the show for a very long time, where people thought that other people's careers were getting fucked because of it. He went along with the Vince McMahon regime for 25 years. You're not going to turn around and tell me because Vince decided to be a sexual deviant that suddenly it changed the creative mindset of Triple H. Triple H definitely has a better mindset. He gives the wrestlers more freedom and more of a chance. Hey, I'm going to give you some time. It's up to you to sell it. It's up to you to convince the fans why you should be here. He definitely does that. There's no question. He gives more opportunity to some. But when you really start dissecting it, there's quite a few people over the last year you could turn around and say, wow, this really was not very good if you really think about it, they really fucking was on cruise control a hell of a lot more than what is perceived. It was only 3 months ago that Rikishi was saying that Jay should consider going to AEW. As stupid as that sounds. It was only 3 months ago. We forget about it because of what's going on now. But thank you, Tommy, for that. I'm not hating Triple H, but I'm reminded that Triple H is just an employee. Hate to say it like that. Triple H is just an employee. Very, very powerful one. But Triple H, he is just an employee. And Ari, just let that sink in. The Rock, Ari Emanuel called The Rock. We want you at Chamber. You didn't hear The Rock say, Ari Emanuel talked to Triple H and, we decided that I should be at the Chamber. There was no mention of Triple H. And please, I don't want anybody to think, Triple H didn't mention The Rock in the Hall of Fame speech. This perceived heat between the two is for a storyline in the future. They're going to tease this perceived real animosity towards each other. And you'll never see them dining together in public. Steve Joseph, we'll talk about AEW in a second. I will talk. All right, Sting not being at the Hall of Fame ceremony. That's terrible. I'm sorry if this upsets anybody. I am 1,000% behind Lex Luger. I have defended Lex Luger for years, and I have forgiven Lex Luger for a lot of his faults, even though he has no reason for me to forgive him. I like Lex Luger. I am so happy of him getting closure and healing and getting his body better. Felt like he gave up on life many years ago, but if I'm WWE, I fucking disown that motherfucker. I had somebody who was at WrestleMania who worked the show, who DM'd me, and I said, Lex was not at the Hall of Fame. I said, what happened with Lex? And this person said to me, goes, I saw him backstage and he seemed fine. And then 2 days later, I DM'd the person. I said, he claimed that he was exhausted from the Hall of Fame. And he told them that, later in the day, he realized he wasn't going to make it. And this person said to me, I don't know where he was exhausted because he was either in his wheelchair or in a golf cart every time people saw him. Now, it's not throwing shade on Lex Luger, but, Lex Luger's been at tons of conventions before. If this was emotionally draining for him, fine. But, all you're doing at the Hall of Fame, even if you show up an hour before, you get out of your limo, you hop in a golf cart, you're in the back, you get makeup, and then you go out there and you wave to everybody, you get out of your wheelchair, as we all knew he was going to do, and then you get back in the car, you go back to the room, and that's it. He went to WrestleCon. If Lex Luger would have stood home, I would have felt completely different. But the minute that he tells WWE, look, I'm exhausted and I don't think I could do it. And like, well, you let us know during the day. What do you mean you let us know during the day? This is a part of the fucking ceremony. And they didn't even do night two. They didn't even do night two because of him. If I'm WWE, I turn around. The next time they're in Atlanta, wherever Lex lives right now, let's say he lives in Atlanta, and the next time WWE's coming to Atlanta and Lex sends a DM to Triple H or an email, he's like, hey, can I stop by and see everybody, since you're coming here? I don't respond. And then I would just write back to Lex after the show. Oh, Lex, I just saw your tweet now, your DM. Shit, I'm sorry, next time. And when next time happens, Triple H, he'll just respond. Oh, listen, I'm on the phone right now. Can I get back to you? And then, I totally forgot. He went to WrestleCon the same day. And listen, they put him in. Now I feel like, okay, goodbye. That's how I feel right now. Sting not doing it. This is what it is. There's a lot more animosity with Tony Khan than you think. I think the Harvey Weinstein thing That was a year ago, guys. That was not 3. See, this is what people need to understand. Let me just say this quickly. We'll move on. When everybody brings up Billy Gunn, because Meltzer brought up Billy Gunn this year. Meltzer said, well, after what they did about Billy Gunn, I wouldn't do it if I'm Tony Khan. That was 2019. AEW wasn't even a thing yet. When he called WWE to Harvey Weinstein to the NFL network, and the NFL commentators like, all right, Tony, we got to go. I'm WWE like, fuck this motherfucker. Seriously. Fuck this motherfucker. So Sting didn't do it. Fine. That's how I look at it. Oliver Norgrove. DT, remember the WrestleMania 30 post-show at Wrestling Soup back in 2014? Me mocking Daniel Bryan fans after he won the title made Kev laugh so hard. I think I just put that on Patreon last week. I think I put that episode up. I am going to put it on our channel. Starting next week, I'm going to upload some old episodes, but we're going to put it like in a server. And then we'll put it on the Patreon first, only because there's not going to be a synopsis. It's literally just password protected, and that's it. Slowly, there'll be a retro section on DTKCShow.com, and everybody will be able to access old shows. But WrestleMania 30 will go back up there. That was fun times, man. That was fun times. But yeah. Trust me, there's so many things. I think about when we talked about Candy, when we talked about Webster, and Kev is like, DT feels like there's just something wrong about a white former football player bringing up an orphan black kid in his, it's just like, that's not the way I was meaning it, but just the way he said it, it was just fucking hilarious. And that was 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Thank you for that. Julius, have I seen or heard any Italian mafia activity in New York City in recent years? Oh, sure. Sure. There was a bunch of people who just got arrested in New Jersey for a lot of conspiracy and a lot of hits. There's a lot of loan sharking still going on. There's a lot of shadiness. It's not what it used to be, but if you look up Mafia Arrest New Jersey, happened about 2 weeks ago, there was about 6 or 7 people that were brought in. I will tell you that in my backyard, there was a couple of people who got arrested about a year ago for fraud related to, I think, COVID. That they claimed, something with COVID and got some type of loans from it. And they fixed their house with it. Somebody actually used the money and went on a trip to Italy or something. So, yeah, there's still activity. It's not as big as it used to be, but there are mafia websites. There is a mafia newsletter online. I don't remember the name of it. It's on my old website if you go on Wayback Machine, but that website still exists. There is a mafia newsletter that if you subscribe to it, and it's free online, they give you updates every day about people in the mob all across the globe. It's pretty cool. It's pretty wild, And I will tell you, whenever I hear about mob arrests, I look at the names because I'm curious if it's anybody, that's from my neighborhood or somebody that I've heard of or maybe even known. But most of the people that I know who used to be in the mob, they're not in anymore. I mean, I honestly don't know much of anybody. Most people that I know now act like they are still, but I think they just have this perceived toughness about them that they don't want to let go away. Like there's one guy, it's funny. He was in my office about 2 weeks ago, and I walked downstairs with him because he had to give me a payment for his car insurance, and he left the payment in the car. So I walked downstairs with him to his car. And somebody was in the parking lot, and they go, oh, paisan. And, turn around, and it was the guy's friend. And he walks up to him, gives him a kiss on both cheeks and doing this. And it's the whole like old mannerisms. And I'm like, yeah, they're trying to they think they still got it, But I'll tell you, my friend who passed away last week, I told everybody on Patreon, the head cook in Lenny's Clam Bar, he had insurance with me for 20 years. I went to his funeral home on Wednesday, and they had a funeral service. I went there, and it was like dozens of mob people. And I'm like, he was fucking Puerto Rican. Like, you don't usually see like Italian mobsters at a Puerto Rican's funeral, but he was in his 70s. He was like 68, I think. But he was very beloved because all the Italians who used to go to Lenny's Clam Bar, he would fucking juice up their their plates. They get a lobster and he'll add clams to it and shrimps and add a whole bunch of additional shit. So he was very well liked. If anybody wants to look him up, his name was Ruben Jimenez. He passed away last week. Jimmy Fingers, do I think if we didn't grow up with kayfabe in 79, we would still care about wrestling today? Kids today see the BS shows and the Unreal fans 5 years from now. They won't know how to suspend disbelief. Oh, listen, like I said earlier, I know what WWE's mentality has to be. I don't need to be Meltzer or fight. And I'm not throwing shade on either. I'm just making a point. Like, I don't need to be a journalist in the know to realize this. There's always a storyline. So when WWE does this, in the back of their mind, they have to turn it into storyline. So when you do see it's kind of like LFG. You watch LFG, you would really think that some of these trainers are being really, really hard on these rookies. And you realize it's for entertainment purposes. Somebody has to be the hardcore Holly. Somebody needs to be the old middle-aged woman who doesn't like butt cheeks sticking out, even though she was doing it 2 years ago. You know, you have to add, because if you don't add that perceived friction, the show's boring. Why do I want to watch fucking green people that aren't going to be a thing for like 5-10 years from now? Why? I'm kind of tired of seeing The Undertaker on my screen all the time. Like, if I want to see Mickie James, I'll watch her wrestle. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why watch LFG? Like, oh my God, it's Evander Holyfield's son. Good. I'll watch him when he goes to NXT. You have to add this perceived drama. So they will definitely work the work. Trust me, you will hear Meltzer or somebody report that WWE is working the work. They will do that. And even if kayfabe still existed or didn't exist, it's like watching a soap opera. It's like watching a movie. When we go watch a horror film, we know truly that people aren't getting killed. But when the movie is well done, you still like it. And you'll go back and watch part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. You go see the sequel, the whatever. You know, you'll still go back. So it's not really about breaking kayfabe. It's about suspending disbelief. And WWE has to put it this way. Professional wrestling is not professional wrestling if you don't suspend disbelief. If WWE does this show, they still have to suspend disbelief. That's what it is. You have to suspend disbelief. That is commandment number 1 in wrestling, suspend disbelief. So even though it will be worked, they will work the work. Mr. Rube Dog, the Don Tony, Joey 924 show. Think about it. I was hoping to hear from Joey. I haven't. If for any reason he hears this, DM me, especially on Twitter. If you got Twitter, DM me. I want to make sure you're okay. You know, you're doing good. You know, no personal shit no more. And, definitely would love to, catch up a little bit about Kev. Because we used to have a shitload of fun with Kev. So I hope Joey's still around. You know, there was rumors that TV Tracks did pass away. I heard that from multiple people and different reasons for it. So it's kind of hard to figure out, but there is a little constant on a few of the messages. Funny thing is, TV Tracks used to be one of our patrons. I used to have his mailing address. And I'm sure I could probably look at my Patreon history, find his old account, find the email address, do a little skip tracing, and I probably could find who he is. But, my thinking is, if he is still with us, if he does not want to be found, I don't think it's right for me to look for him. So and plus, that's not why you run a Patreon. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't think I should be looking up people. Now, of course, if somebody, is trying to, the circumstance is different. Yeah. But I don't think I should be the one looking for him. Tyrese, what the fuck are hush puppies? Aren't hush puppies like little like munchkins, donuts? Supposed to be some type of food. Someone in the chat room, don't super chat it, but what are hush puppies? Aren't they? I always thought they were like little like donut munchkins, or it was like little round something like hush puppies. I've never used hush puppies. It's cornmeal. Okay, thank you, John. He says it's cornmeal. I knew it was like something round and kind of cakey. So yeah, hush puppies. They don't say hush puppies where I am. I went to Texas once, and just in flight to go to Chicago when I was in the Navy. We had a stopover, and I remember, something with hush puppies. So, thank you very much, Tyrese. Hush puppies. Definitely not something we talk about in New York. We'll talk about puppies, but not hush puppies. Shout out to Chaos, my friend. Thank you for the 20 spot. You don't have to do that. You know that. He says, thank you, DT, for providing me with a temporary distraction and stress reliever. Appreciate it. I appreciate you too, man. And much love and respect. It's different. It's definitely different. Monday nights feel fucking weird, man. Monday nights, I do start the show 5-10 minutes earlier because I don't, why should I wait 15 minutes anymore? But, for the last 2 weeks, I've had that pause where I think I'm going to get a response to it, and then it's like, oh shit, I got to keep going. And I do solo shows. See, that's the thing. I'm used to doing solo shows, so I can do it. But when you have, since the 2000s, that's the thing. You see, that's something that I think a lot of you don't realize. Even before we ever did anything online, we were doing hotlines right after Raw. We were doing hotlines before WCW went out of business. So every Monday night, there would be something live. Yes, we would record on a hotline, and we would have to press 1 to hit record, and people would know to tune in at like 11:30 at night or whatever it was, and the recording would be in process. So since the late 90s has been a Monday night live show. There were times I did it solo, but even when Kev and I were not doing shows for a little while, always in the back of my mind, I knew we were going to do it again. This is the first time where I can't say that anymore. So it's different. But I know one way to keep Kev's legacy alive is to just throw it out there. Like I said earlier, I know I definitely offended some people tonight, and I'm sorry if I did, but I ain't holding back no more. I joked last week, and I really meant it. I was thinking about Kev a little bit and how I was going to talk about some things. And like I literally envisioned Kev saying to me, he's like, what are you going to do, sue me? Because when I was going to put the old stuff back up, one of the reasons why we didn't put the old stuff back up is because some of the things we said are very much a no-no in 2025. And, I was thinking about, there's an intro about Goldberg's tattoo and what Kev said in the intro. And if you hear that in 2025, somebody's going to get pissed off. And that intro was played for years, at least 6-7 years back in the day. We didn't have one person complain about it. Now, like, my fear is, okay, I put that back online, and then somebody out there is going to get unhinged and be like, what the fuck was that? And then I was thinking about it last week, and I literally heard Kev say to me, he said, what are you going to do, sue me? And I was like, holy shit. I'm going to just throw it out there. If people don't like it, hey, go eat a Snickers, and there's plenty of other places you could tune into. There's, and if people can't put it in time perspective, that's on them. That's why I was very, very thankful in the past, the stuff with Stevie Ray. When I paid tribute to Run DMC, he went off on me, and it almost turned into a little war against me. Then once he realized that was 1983, 1984, at that time it wasn't perceived the way it is now. And once he understood why it was done and when it was done, he was mad cool about it. He wasn't happy about it, but he totally understood. There was nothing but love from me. And for those that don't know the story, I don't hide anything about me. Back in 1984, when I was 15 years old, I went to a Halloween party. And Run DMC was my favorite fucking group. Ever since they were at the Funhouse in 1983 doing Here We Go. They were my favorite fucking group. I wore Adidas, I wore Lee jeans and I went to the Halloween party and, I went as one member of Run DMC, complete with makeup and everything else. 15 years old, 14 years old, 1983, 84. At that time, Eddie Murphy was Mr. White. It was not done to mock. It was done in tribute. And, he heard about it, 20 years later and freaked out about it. I'm like, wait a minute. You're going to get mad at me when I was 14 years old in 1983? As a teenager in 1983, if I known that would have upset people, I wouldn't have done it. But yeah. Am I proud of it? No, I'm not proud of it. But what's weird about it? When Stevie Ray first went after me, my first thinking, this is how naive I was. My first thinking was, so if I would have put a mask on and it would have been that color, it would have been okay. But because I actually put something on my skin, it was different. And I just it didn't comprehend to me. I'm like, wait a minute, I was not making fun. I was not hating. I was obsessed with Run DMC in 1983. I mean, when I went to Fresh Fest 84, I remember still to this day pulling up at the Meadowlands and my friend cranking It's Like That. And when you play that with a good stereo system and you hear bang, bang, money is the key to end all your woes, your ups, your downs, your highs and your lows. I still have flashbacks. That was 41 years ago. And I still remember it to this day. It was nothing but a tribute at that time. But now in 2025, that's a big no-no. And I would never, ever even think about doing that again. Thank you, Chaos. T. Smitty 3000, Bianca is injured. Rhea is slated to take some time off. Who do I think steps up? Keep up the great work and rest in peace, Kev. Thank you. Who steps up? Who? Interesting because people think Chelsea Green is taking some time off. I personally, I think's going to happen. I think they're going to do another tournament. Funny thing is, Becky Lynch is going to feud with Lara for the United States, Intercontinental title. So that'll probably be the focus a little bit. They'll probably do some type of a battle royal or a tournament to determine a new number one contender for EO's belt. I think Asuka is going to return. I think we may see a swerve in Damage Control. Kairi Sane possibly. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think we could possibly see the return of Asuka or somebody else. As far as the NXT roster, you could put Roxanne Perez in that position. I don't know. I don't think you want to revisit Stephanie Vacker. I definitely don't think you want to revisit Julia after what happened Monday. I think that's a little too soon. So I think it could be one of them. Even if Kiana James were to return right now, I would not put her immediately against Io Sky. That is way too much, way too soon. Oh, no. Definitely would not do that. But I think we could see the return of one of them. And who knows? We might see somebody get moved. I don't want to say, listen, as long as it's not a Bella, I'm fine with it. I don't want to see Chelsea Green move to Raw. I think Chelsea Green should stay on SmackDown. Very interesting that they went with Zelina Vega Friday. Although Zelina Vega has been doing a great job. So that's not a knock on Zelina Vega. Oracle, did me and Solomon have heat in the early 2010s? No. When we met up 5 years ago, if you ever watch that video, you'll hear me say to Jason, like, go away. I hate you. I hate you. And we were joking afterwards. I literally, the first words I ever said to Jason outside, like when I met him, I was like, why do I hate you again? And he's like, I have no idea. Honestly, I think I know where it started. People have asked me this over the years and never really brought it up, but I bring it up now. This is where I think it started. At one point years ago, WWE said that the Shield was the greatest faction of all time. And I think Jason had done an episode of his show, and he said that the Shield were better than the Fabulous Freebirds. And somebody went, and this is why it turned into the way it did. Somebody went on our show and called in and said, Jason on his show said that the Shield are better than the Fabulous Freebirds. And I got mad. But I didn't get mad because of the opinion. I got mad, and I still get mad to this day because of stuff like this. When people will say to me, oh, what's your thoughts on what Jim Cornette said? Or what are your thoughts on what JD said? Or what are your thoughts about what Jason said? Or what are your thoughts about what Joe said? What do you think? What are your thoughts on what Vince Russo said? And my answer is always starts off with a question. Do you go on their show and say, what are your thoughts on Don Tony saying this? What are your thoughts about DT and Kev saying this? What are your thoughts? If you don't do that, don't come on my show and say to me, what do I think about what other people say? Because, if you're not doing that for us, I don't want to hear it. So that was my first thought of it was, if you don't go on their show and ask them what they think about what I say, don't do it to me. So that kind of stirred it up. And then I went on this whole rant about the Fabulous Freebirds and their history in the Sportatorium and how they drew and how they sold out and what they did with the Von Erichs. And I said, for anybody to think, if you go back to the early 80s and you see what the Freebirds caused as far as disarray and revenue and buzz, I said, just because it was at a time where tickets were $3 doesn't mean that they were less valuable. I said, the Freebirds blew the fuck away out of the Shield. Individually, the Shield ended up being much bigger in a wrestling food chain than the Freebirds ever were. And that's because Michael P.S. Hayes was never really good as a single star. You think of the other members of the Freebirds, they never really broke out. One of them, unfortunately, passed away way too young, abusing drugs. So, individually, the Shield does blow them away. But as a group, the Shield never fucking had the impact that the Freebirds had, especially when they feuded with the Von Erichs. So I thought it was a ridiculous take. I don't have a right to my opinion. And people immediately took that I was hating on Jason. I think that's where it all originally started. So, but I was just giving my opinion. I was just giving my opinion on it, but it definitely stirred some people the wrong way. All right. Ronnie C. Rest in peace, Kev. Hope you're doing better, DT. I don't know if you've seen all the hype about Mariah May leaving AEW for WWE. If you have, what's my take on this? Very simply put, WWE does not need Mariah May right now. I have saw some of the rants that some people have said, and here's the thing. WWE is not going to sign anybody so they don't work the AEW. They're not going to do that. Mariah May, the problem is they already have a Mariah May and Tiffany Stratton. And what I mean by that is they're very similar in looks. You notice WWE, everybody has some original individual identity. Not many people look very similar to each other. So if you bring Mariah May in, you're going to have to tweak her quite a bit. Plus, if you're going to sign Mariah May, you're going to do the same thing like they did with Okada, and they did with Ospreay, and they did with Jay White and others. If we could steal them cheap, yeah, we'll take them. They really didn't need Okada. They didn't really need Jay White. They weren't horny for Daniel Garcia, as people reported. They're not needed right now. So if WWE could get somebody on the cheap, of course you sign them. But they don't need Mariah May right now. In my honest opinion, this is how I look at it. And here's a little tidbit that I guarantee you no esteemed podcaster brought up. Does anybody remember when Mariah May tried out for WWE and they didn't sign her? I remember. Kev remembered. We covered it. Does anybody know why WWE did not sign Mariah May at the time? Does anybody know why? Someone in the chat room. Does anybody know why Mariah May didn't get signed? I'm just curious to see if anybody, because if you all tune into all these other shows out there, I'm sure somebody told you the reason why. No, it wasn't a signing freeze. Had nothing to do with that. It wasn't a signing freeze. I'm curious if anybody ever told you the reason why. Mariah May actually told everybody the reason. It's just that she said it about 4 years ago and nobody bothered to look. The reason why Mariah May did not sign with WWE was because when she had a tryout match, you know how many matches she had wrestled before that tryout match? 3 matches. She had 3 matches under her belt. They told her, go out and get yourself a little bit of a career. Get yourself out there. Work. Learn. And then in the future, we'll do business. That's why they didn't sign her. It wasn't that there was a hiring freeze. How much do you think an early 20s girl with 3 matches under her belt would command in WWE 4 or 5 years ago? How much do you think? 60 grand? 80 grand? No. It had nothing to do with a hiring freeze. She had no experience. Honestly, AEW needs her 1,000 times more than WWE needs her. And personally, she doesn't fit any stereotype, any character. She doesn't fit anything in WWE that they're lacking right now. They would have to totally change her up. And I don't see that happening. I personally think she will stay with AEW, or if WWE signs her, they're going to sign her at a dirt cheap level. And honestly, I think that would be a huge mistake for Mariah May, because you bring in Mariah May, you're going to have to reinvent her. And then on top of that, there are so many women in the WWE right now that she would have to leapfrog. In AEW, she could be right now top 3 on their roster. Even if she's not talented, in ring wise to be that high, AEW could build it that way. Top 5 in WWE or NXT, she ain't going to be in top 5. So you would have to totally rebuild her. I don't even think you would keep her name Mariah May. I think what'll happen in the end is AEW will give her way too good of an offer, and she'll say, look, I'm still young. 2-3 years from now, you might have a couple of women in WWE that are going to be retired. So I personally think, this is kind of like an MJF situation, just not on that high of a level. MJF was not needed in the WWE last year when his contract was rumored to be coming up. That's why AEW re-signed him so early. WWE realized that, we could definitely love to have MJF here, but we really don't need him at this moment. So if we could sign him really, really cheap, yeah, we'll bring him in. And it just, the stars weren't aligned. There's no shade on MJF. There's no need to bring in Mariah May right now. They're not going to lose any viewers or gain any viewers because Mariah May is there. It's funny. I remember when Cody Rhodes came back to the WWE. And after 2 weeks, the ratings were the same they were before he returned. And that goes to show you that there's no one individual person that is going to affect the ratings like that. when CM Punk first returned and had the confrontation with Seth Rollins, they had that quarter-hour jump by 700,000 viewers. That was different. But, CM Punk is, totally different situation. Mariah May, absolutely not needed right now. If WWE could get her on the dirt cheap, they will. All right. And Steve Joseph, Camille is not back in AEW yet. Get rid of her. Let her go. All momentum is dead. You just had a movie that could have been so much publicity crossover. She's featured in the movie. Nothing. There's no injury that I'm aware of. I don't listen, none against Jim Cornette or anybody else. I didn't like any of the interviews that she did about the movie because AEW really could not be talked about, but there is no excuse for Camille to be off TV right now. I mean, even if it ends up being, I personally think Tony Storm versus Mercedes Moné is the all-in match that you want to do. But if you bring back Camille in some way, there's no excuse. She hasn't been on TV since what? Halloween of last year? I mean, what is that? Just let that sink in. November, December, January, February, March, April. We're almost in May. She's getting paid. She's being wasted. She's being fucking wasted. I am baffled that AEW can't figure out what to do with her. Doesn't make sense. Does not make sense at all. So, thank you for that. So, we're at 2 hours and 11 minutes. I guess we'll wrap this up in about 10 minutes. Because I will be right back here tomorrow night after Raw. We'll continue the build. They shouldn't have John Cena on. They shouldn't have Randy Orton on this SmackDown. Gunther is going to be suspended. They're going to probably continue the tease of Sami Zayn turning on Jey Uso. Sammy's going to have a wild look on his face. The fans are going to have that noise like erupting, like, oh my God, he's going to turn. And then Jimmy Uso's going to music his ear. Then you're going to start saying to yourself, what the fuck is Jimmy Uso keep showing up on Raw? Or someone else's music's going to hit. It's going to be like every time the criminal wants to commit criminal activity, like the alarm goes off. It's kind of like I want to have something late at night in the refrigerator. I don't want my wife knowing that I'm like infiltrating her cake. And then what happens? You keep the refrigerator door open a little bit too much. It starts going beep, beep, beep. Then my wife wakes up. What are you doing? Why are you eating at 3 o'clock in the morning? Huh? I was getting some water. Anybody ever do that? And what do you do? Let's be honest. What do you do when the refrigerator starts making a beep? Before it, what do? You make sure you press the light button off. You kind of like, oh, that alarm's going to go off. Let me hit the button. And then the timer starts all over again. Some of you are admitting right now that you do that too. I am on tomorrow at 5 minutes after Raw goes off the air. It'll be on our Discord channel. It is www.dtkcdiscord.com. It's free. We will continue staying on there for the foreseeable future. Some of you have asked me to come to YouTube to do it live. I think in the near future, I will do both at the same time. I will stream live on YouTube, and I will also stream live on Discord. And yes, I can be computer savvy where I could have 2 chat rooms going at the same time. So soon. Right now, I have to get back into the swing of things. And believe me when I tell you, doing solo shows is fine. I'm used to them. But there is, the need of conversation and debate, and yeah, it definitely was a little bit sucking for WrestleMania. Because I saw there was a shitload of roundtables going on for WrestleMania. And I sat there and I'm like, nobody asked me. Nobody invited me. No. Trust me, I was in no frame of mind. Somebody actually did reach out to me. Somebody was like, hey, you want to go? We're going to do a little roundtable discussion. I'm like, listen, I said the last 2 weeks I've been so like in and out of loop, paying attention to stuff. I said, nah. It's like, not this year. Not this year. So, Rojo Bear, what's up, Rojo Bear? Thank you, my friend. He says he can't wait to see Blackface Miz on SmackDown this Friday. Happy that he got his old theme back. He wants us. He didn't mean blackface. He meant he can't wait to see back Face Miz on SmackDown. Nobody wants to see Face Miz. Miz can't be a face. I just realized what he said. Don't even write it. Brain fart. He was saying he can't wait to see Aleister Black face the Miz on Friday. I guarantee you, people on the replay for those 10 seconds, 15 seconds, they'd be like, no, DT, you idiot. He's talking about Aleister Black versus the Miz. I know, it just hit me. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. It went from Miz is a babyface to blackface Miz. Blackface Miz to now Aleister Blackface and Miz. Listen, it wasn't Cody. Aleister Black's debut in AEW was great with Cody. Started out with a bang, no question. Why would Aleister Black be annoyed at Miz? You know what I mean? Like, all right, I could see how they're starting this off. I'm not going to crap on it yet. I almost kind of wish that Aleister Black would have returned on NXT. I know it sounds ridiculous, and I know some people would be like, what the fuck? After his career, he started with NXT? I got news for you. When you think about the fact that they got Ricky Starks there and Ethan Page there, and you think about some of the others there, I think actually it could possibly work. Do you commingle him with the Wyatt Six? There's people saying they're coming back. You know, like, I don't know. Like, I'm looking at the SmackDown roster and I'm saying to myself, okay, who is he going to go up against? You know, and you start thinking about it, it's like, all right, you know, we're glad that he's back, but it's like, all right, now what? Now what? I don't know. I don't know. That's funny, man. That's funny. I thought he was saying blackface Miz. That Miz was going to do Run DMC 1984. No, Miz was going to do Don Tony doing Run DMC from 1984. Tristan wants to know what I think of Snitsky punting Kane and Lita's baby. I was blown away by the kick because I think many of us over the years have kicked something, just something outside, not just a football. You kick something. You're just like mad, like, I don't know, like your mother's like, could you pick that up? And you pick it up and she's like, throw that out. And you're just like, oh, fuck you. And you just go to kick it and it just like goes nowhere. Like that guy kicked it. And I was like, whoa, that motherfucker could kick. I mean, it would have been funny if it just like bounced into the ropes or something like that. That could have went a lot wrong in a very short amount of time. So the punt was beautiful. The storyline was ridiculous, though. Obafemi and Aleister Black would be fire. You know, this week is the anniversary of Obafemi's debut. 2 years he's on NXT. Doing a great job. Doing a great job. S21 Ultra, do I think that Cena's doing a good job with the heel turn? He's more like a cartoon heel. Listen, we all know Cena is still good-hearted Cena. Nothing changed. It's funny because it looks like John Cena reminds himself in the segment, oh, I have to be a heel. So he'll be standing there and Randy is like, John, you need kids. Can you imagine, little Cena's running around with that face? And you could see, like, Cena, even when Randy Orton's talking about Make-A-Wish, John Cena absolutely loves the kids. And he's got that smile, but then he has to force the frown. He'll be standing there, and it gives you a little hint that he's gonna, all right, I'll go along with it. I do remember why it mattered. And then he puts this real frown on his face. He's like, and then he comes with the comeback. See, one thing that is so great about this, he doesn't have to do thugonomics. He just has to be the opposite of what he's been. All he's got to do is just turn around and say, the reason why I didn't have kids is because I was busy freaking taking care of everybody else's. He just has to do the opposite, be the opposite of what he's been for 20 years. And it fits like a glove. He don't have to think about any catchy raps. He doesn't have to do any of the yo, 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 yo. Standing here with you, Randy, this makes me sick. And if you don't like it, you can all suck my, like he used to. He doesn't have to do that. He can just be the opposite. And most people out there know that he's full of it. Everybody knows he's playing a character. I even think he teased it not too long ago. Could swear that he teased it in an interview talking about, when you're out there, it's a character. Oh, Cena's definitely forced. Of course it's forced. To suddenly have this wild epiphany that for 20 years everybody was using him, of course. Where they got it wrong is that what The Rock could have done to help this is The Rock could have easily gone on Twitter, just basically said, what a lot of you losers don't realize is that John Cena finally woke up and saw that you've been just using him for 20 years. Rock could have set that up on social. You know why they didn't? Because last year, Rock infiltrating WWE got so much hate from the fans that it elevated Cody even more. They did not want Cody to be all the way up here and John Cena over here. So if The Rock would have used logic on social media and basically set up why John Cena and give the perception that Rock is feeding John Cena bullshit and brainwashing him, that would have given more heat on Cena and making Cody more of a babyface. They didn't want to do that. It's not that hard to figure out. Makes no sense. And here's something else. I bet a lot of you don't know this. WWE World set insane records for merchandise. Do you know, and there's enough videos online to back it up, do you know that when you first walked through the door at WWE World, for all of those autograph signings, for all of those merchandise stores, for all of those podcast tables, for the ring, they had wrestlers wrestling too. When you first walked into WWE World and entered that building, what's the first thing that you see? Big display of The Rock. As soon as you walk through the door, it's the first person you see. Giant display of The Rock. The Rock was plastered right in your face when you first walked through that door. That's strategic. Why would you take away from the fans this year? Why would you think that a 110-pound rapper was a better idea than The Rock? Why would you think a rapper with no wrestling connection ever was a better idea going out there by himself than The Rock? People will look back at this 10, 20 years ago, 20 years from now, and will call it the dumbest finish in WrestleMania history. I can't picture Triple H Ari Emanuel, Rock, Nick Khan, Bruce Pritchard, anybody in that writing team, turn it around. You're not going to see on WWE Unreal the writing team all saying, yeah, that's a great idea. Travis Scott could walk down and crossroads and blah, 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 blah. I can't, whoever actually does say that should not only get fired, should fucking get their shit shipped to them in a garbage bag with a whole bunch of holes in it. Mickey James can even take a dump in the bag before you pack it. Nobody's going to admit to that. Yeah, listen, I'm still a fan. I will continue being a fan. I'm not going to be one of these fake LaGrecas or anything else and be melodramatic about it and almost act like I'm crying, you know, like there's more important things in life. This is a form of entertainment. And entertainment, listen, wrestling is supposed to break your heart sometimes. This was not breaking our heart. When Ariel Helwani interviewed Scott D'Amore, and Ariel Helwani was basically asking Scott D'Amore his reaction on Rock not showing up at the end of Mania and Travis Scott going out there by himself and doing what he's doing. Scott D'Amore goes on this rant saying, like, sometimes, the heel wins and, you don't get the outcome you wanted. And that was a time where I'm just like, Ariel, open your fucking mouth. I know you're both from Canada, but open your fucking mouth. That's not what Scott D'Amore was just talking about the outcome and the decision. And I was like, that's not what he's asking you, but he let it slide. And I'm like, oh, could someone out there just fucking call it what it is? God awful. It was god awful. It's nothing against Travis Scott personally. Listen, I say this 100% sincere. I hope he turns into a Bad Bunny. I hope he fucking kills it if he works a match. If they do it the right way and he gets his ass kicked, but he performs and takes the bumps and sells, I'm for it. I don't want it, but it's not up to me to say yes or no. If I really don't want to see it, then I'll take a bathroom break during it. There's enough wrestling for me to enjoy. I'm not going to stop watching because of one or two people on it. But, right now, he didn't do anything up to that point to justify being in the spotlight like that. And again, you look at the overall picture with TKO and Netflix, and then you realize this is not the Vince McMahon WWE anymore. This is not even the Triple H WWE. It's like somebody who owns Walmart. And you walk into a Walmart, and there's a lot of ways it's set up that's just really, really awful. I can't find this. I can't see this. I can't locate this. This is to this. It's just like really disorganized. And then you complain to the store manager, Paul Levesque. You're like, where's this? Where's this? Why do you have it set up like this? Well, it's Walmart. Walmart has a way how they want everything set up. So I got to kind of like go along with it. So Triple H is steering the ship, but it is Ari Emanuel and Netflix that are telling you, okay, we want this destination. We want this destination. We want Logan Paul to get involved with El Fragrant Schmucko. We want this to be seen. We want this to be featured. We're going to have this person sit front row. We want Michael Cole to fucking lose his shit for people he probably never heard of before. Pat, 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 pat. Look. And people starting to see right through it. It is what it is. I'm still a fan. Just not going to sit here and cry about it. I'll confront it. I'll give my criticism. And if people don't like it, fine. So I look at it. All right, we're at 2.5 hours. I'm going to jet. I will say this in closing because I see a bunch of people bringing up Cody. There is no excuse for Cody Rhodes not showing up on SmackDown and demanding his rematch, getting in Randy Orton's face and say, listen, Randy, I know, I love you like a brother, but I'm entitled to that rematch. And they could still turn into a three-way. It is not out of the question that it could still end up being a three-way. It makes no sense for Cody Rhodes not to show up. Makes no sense. And they did this last year with Roman Reigns, and it sucked. And they're doing it this year with Gunther, and it sucks. And they're doing it this year with Cody, and it sucks. And based on that Triple H interview, well, we'll tune in next week and see if they fix it. Why even get to that point? If you know majority of people saying that it sucks, then why even put yourself in that position? Why, if you know something is going to be broken over it, that you're going to have to fix, why not break it in the first place? This is what's bad about it. They know what they could prevent. You don't think that WWE doesn't realize that a majority of people in the IWC have kind of turned on Pat McAfee? And it ain't about, kissing Canada's ass, if you know what I mean, from Chamber. It's not that. People just don't like Pat McAfee in that position. WWE takes very close attention to it. Pat McAfee knows. If continue, got to keep the spirit alive, keep the shows alive. It's very one-sided conversations now, but a lot of his views grew on me. If you've paid attention to me the last 2 years, how many times did I have a debate with Kev? Kev would make a couple of points and I would say, you know what, Kev, you changed my mind. Numerous times. I never in a million years ever thought that we would be talking about him in the past tense. It's baffling. I mean, there's nothing I could say now that I didn't say 2 weeks ago. There's none I could say 3 weeks ago. There's none I could say now. I just look back on it and I just can't understand why it wasn't preventable. I don't understand why, like I had said to him, even the week before, I said, you didn't have stents put in. You didn't have to get open heart surgery. You didn't have to get, any, bypass. That's good. The fact that it's only medication, that's got to be a plus. But when he was telling me like how the medication would really, really affect him. I mean, there was 1 or 2 shows here that we were about to go live and he called me up and sounded unbelievably sick. He's like, the medicine's kicking my ass right now. And I'm like, what the fuck are they giving you? I don't understand. I don't. We'll never know truly. We'll never know truly. But I just hope he didn't suffer. I just hope he didn't suffer. Like I had had some very, 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 very strong conversations with his family on Friday. And let me tell you something. His family fucking loved him and really rooted for him, for this not to happen. And, no parent wants to bury their kid. No parent wants to bury their kid. But I tell you, his mother is very, very proud. And I'm not just saying that. You could see she was very, very proud of her son. And I tell you, I say this in closing. I took a couple of funeral cards. I only took about 10. I'm going to try to get more, because there's a few people that really wanted one, but it's very, very difficult because I know I'm not going to be able to get enough. Somebody's not going to get it. So it's almost like maybe I shouldn't give any, but I'll say this. I saw the pictures that were there and the picture that's on the card. There was nothing wrong with him. You know what it reminds me of? This is kind of extreme example, but I know every one of you will relate to this. You ever see like a girl that goes on Instagram or does a live stream and they look like Alexa Bliss, usually somebody that looks like Alexa Bliss. And they are convinced that they are ugly and they are fat and they are this and they are that and this. And you look at him like, are you for real? Like you look at, like, there was nothing wrong with the guy. I'm just, I don't know. I wish we would have had, listen, there's a lot of people I know that just like to stay home. So I'm not saying that he needed to go out more. I just kind of wish that we had some memories going to a WrestleMania, going to a convention, doing a couple of things out in public. Because I know we all wanted to. And it just never happened. But going there Friday and standing in front of him, I know it sounds a little cliche, but believe me when I tell you, standing in front of him, it really gave me that feeling from 1991 thinking of my grandmother. I felt like, okay, before he's taken away from there, I got to see him in person. He was a very, very good man. And trust me, he freaking cared about all of you. The conversations that he had with so many of you, not even on shows, just with emails and DMs. I've had so many people reach out to me that, like I said last week, I'm exhausted because there's only so many times you could keep saying the same things back over and over again. But, he was absolutely beloved. And he knew that, I don't think he knew on this level, but if he's able to be witnessing some of this right now, he'd be kind of blown away by it. So, but like I said, going forward, I'll keep his name alive. I'll keep his voice alive. I will definitely make sure that content will be available. Things that haven't been up online for 10, 15 years will be up again in time. We'll do it the right way. And, we'll never forget him. We'll never forget him. And I will definitely keep that DTKC, that attitude going. I'll never replace him. He will never be replaced. I could never duplicate him, but I absolutely could keep his spirit going. So I've had a lot of people tell me privately, and I know you've heard me say this before. Sometimes I'll get some of my family members, like I'll act a certain way, talk a certain way, and my aunt will say, "That's your grandmother talking. That's your uncle talking." Like, you just pick up things about family members over the years. And I still, to this day, certain things about me, like my aunt will say, "That's your grandmother talking." So there'll be times where we'll have a conversation and someone will say, "That's Kev. That's Kev. That's Kev." Because he grew on me, and he grew, he definitely, reflected on me and I reflected on him. So, all right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope I didn't really offend anybody with some of the things that I said, but I think we could all have Snickers bars and feel better at the end of the night. No malice intended. And I just needed to voice a couple of my opinions about WrestleMania 41 and kind of bring to the forefront what's going on. You know what the funny thing is? I'll leave you this in closing. Take note that nobody's still bringing up Netflix. And nobody's still bringing up Ari Emanuel. Kevin and I have been saying about Ari Emanuel for 15 months. And Netflix is a very big part of this as well. What has changed from Dwayne Johnson from a year ago to now? Netflix and Ari Emanuel having WWE a year under his belt. So now he knows what steers the ship. And Ari Emanuel creatively thought that it was a great idea to bring The Rock to an elimination chamber, but not to an event where people drop tens, thousands of dollars. Doesn't that sound kind of ass backwards when you think about it? There's a shitload of deflectors. And from now on, we reference any of them as the board of deflectors. Pat McAfee, right at the head of that line. That motherfucker is on WWE's payroll. He's on an insanely big, successful podcast that branches out through every sports element out there. When Pat McAfee name drops wrestling on a show where everybody's talking football, there's got to be a few football players that might be interested in checking it out too. Pat McAfee is right at the top of the board of deflectors. There are others. You will take note in time. And again, pay attention to what I said about Busted Open. I invite you to go back like a month, 5 weeks before WrestleMania and just read some of the posts online, some of the clips that people reported about their conversations about The Rock. It'll blow your fucking mind because you will hear a lot of defending The Rock not being there. And for some reason, Dave LaGreca's name is always absent from it. And then it happens. And then suddenly, you just watch it and then you realize how fucking, organized that really was. So be well, everybody. I'll catch you all in the next one. And hope you could join me tomorrow night. If you want, I'll be live after Raw, about 5 minutes after Raw goes off the air. DTKCDiscord.com.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who claim they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around anything like it. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup. And I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.
Echo. I don't know why it echoed, but I apologize.